Greetings, everybody. This is Jason, and this is another Off the Cuff. So hot off the press, we're going to be talking about the new Black Keys album that just came out today called Dropout Boogie. We're going to do a quick review of that, and so we're going to go through it. Now, I just got the CD, so I haven't actually looked at the CD yet. This is the CD right here. I did have the opportunity to listen to the MP3s though, so I do have an idea what the songs are like. Let's see what the here's what the actual disc looks like, and then it looks like not much for. I don't see any booklet or lyrics, so it looks like we're going pretty simple with the packaging on this time around. Alright, so once again, I usually look at a couple of reviews. This is their 11th album, and generally speaking, the reviews of this have been pretty good. I've seen some really enthusiastic reviews. I saw a couple not so enthusiastic reviews. And I've listened to this album twice, so I kind of have a general feeling about it. It's a relatively short album. There's only 10 songs on it. It clocks in at less than 35 minutes, so, and there's only really like 2 songs maybe that go over the 4-minute mark, so it's really short and sweet. Um, and generally speaking, this is definitely a better album than the last actual studio record, which was Let's Rock. The previous album to that was Delta Cream, which was these guys doing a bunch of covers of various blues standards, especially for some of the ones that they like the best, like Junior Kimbrough and some of those artists. And that was an interesting album, but to me, I don't really consider that to be like a true Black Keys record. To me, Delta Cream would have been a really nice album if it would have been a bonus disc for this. If I was buying the deluxe version of this album and the disc that was Delta Cream came with this, I would have been like, ooh, that's pretty cool. But it is what it is. This album is a good, solid album. It's definitely the best album since their hiatus. And it shows the Black Keys kind of going back to earlier time in their development. Where kind of, if you're looking for a reference point for where the music is kind of based out of, we're looking more towards a Rubber Factory to Magic Potion kind of time in there, where the band is kind of going back to an older style and older sound. Now, the songs on this album, I don't know if there are any songs that are quite as outstanding as like some of the absolute best tracks of those two albums, but there is a very solid consistency to all these tracks, and this whole album is a good fun track. Now, being called Dropout Boogie makes total sense because there's quite a bit of boogies on this, and so it's a, and honestly, they even have a track where they have Billy Gibbons, who is from ZZ Top, which of course is the king of boogie songs, and he plays guitar in a track. And that's actually one of the standout tracks of the album, even though when you're listening to it and then the track kind of ends unexpectedly, you're kind of like, well, I kind of wanted more. That's one of the tracks where you listen to it and you're like, hey, wait a minute, where's the rest? It's a good track and it's fun, and Billy Gibbons does his thing and he plays some really tasty guitar solos. But that was one of the few tracks where I was like, wait, I wanted more. So, but the lead single, Wild Child's good. Ain't Over is a good song. Good Love, which is the track that has Billy Gibbons on it, is a solid song, and I like that one really well. And this is just a good album. I mean, there's no really like, there's no tracks where you're kind of like going, oh man, what happened on that track? But there's not a lot of tracks where you're like, ooh, I really like this. But I haven't listened to this much yet. I've only listened to it twice. But my impression is that this is definitely a better album than Let's Rock. and with them kind of revisiting their more, primitive roots and going back to their earlier stage. So a more like Rubber Factory slash Magic Potion kind of stage where they're doing more of just the duo with the rock, and they're moving away from the like a lot of the extra tracking that they've had in some of their other albums. Like when they got to Brothers, they got to the point where they just couldn't work and play these songs as a two-person band anymore because there was just too much going on, and they had to change to a four-person band. I saw, which had to be one of the last shows that they played as a two-piece, which was actually the first concert that they did for what was the Brothers tour. They played in the Student Union in Iowa City, and I was lucky enough to see there. And when they played Howling for You, they said that this was the first time they ever played that live. So it was pretty cool to be able to say that I was the one who was in the audience who saw them play Howling for You for the first time, which is a really fun song. But when they entered the Brothers phase and all the way through Turn Blue, the compositions and the complications, and there was a lot more going on musically. There was a lot of, like with the Danger Mouse, there was a lot more keys being added. There was a lot more overdubbing. There was a lot more bass. There was a lot of things like that. On this album, there is still some overdubbing, and there is a few tracks that have bass and a few tracks that have dual guitar, but this is a lot more of the Black Keys going back to their roots. There is quite a bit of slide guitar on this album, which actually thinking about it has kind of been missing, except for obviously from Delta Cream, where they brought in a guy who was a classic Nashville player that was a very accomplished slide guitar player. But there's quite a bit of slide guitar in this album as well. And it's a lot more of like standard blues type songs and arrangements, which is probably one of the reasons why there's a lot of songs that are decent, but there's not necessarily that many songs that are outstanding. These songs kind of tend to work towards more of they're kind of treading familiar ground, but they're not really breaking new ground. But it's a good album. And I'm definitely happy that they put this out, and I'm looking forward to the next record. But it's good to see these guys kind of getting more back into form, and have a great rest of your day.